Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Punchcast, the podcast where innovation meets inspiration. Today, we're honored to host Bola Adegbulu, an investor at AI fund led by Stanford Professor Andrew Ng, the visionary behind Coursera and DeepLearning.ai. Bola, a former AI founder with an exit himself in the auto insurance space, is deeply passionate about democratizing technology and building at the cutting edge of innovation. Bola, welcome to the first episode of Punchcast.
Yeah,
So Bola, man, yeah, great to reconnect. You're back from the Valley. You've moved to London recently. Welcome to Punchcast. It's a pleasure to have you as our first guest, and just an honor. So what's going on? How you doing?
I'm good. I'm doing well. Glad to be back. Though it's the weather is not great compared to San Francisco. But no, definitely back. Glad to be back in the UK and glad to do this with you. I'm a big fan of
Yeah,
what Punch Capital is doing. So excited to
yeah,
support you and be a part of the journey.
yeah. And we've been a huge fan of you too. That's why you're here. We admire the route you've taken, and you've gone through a lot. In fact, I'm not mistaken, you are an aerospace engineer who worked for AI startups, right? Founded and exited multiple startups, led and incubated projects at Cisco, and now you're a VC. You've been all over the place. So what got you here at AI Fund?
Yeah, I guess it's been an interesting journey. I've done, as you said, I've done startups, a bit of corporate, and now VC. I think I really realized that venture capital is something that I really enjoy. When I was a founder, I was a good founder, but essentially, I kind of had to turn off that I call it shiny thing syndrome, and really focus as a founder, really focus on executing what was in front of you, the challenges that were in front of you. But my role at AI Fund allows me to do a bit of both. We incubate companies from scratch as well as investing companies. So I get to flex my, I guess, operational founder expertise at the same time, really lean into that kind of VC aspect, different markets, different opportunities, different business models that I really enjoy. So it's been a fantastic role for me. I definitely feel like venture capital is the right thing for me. I know some founders have gone from being a founder to venture capital and then gone back to being a founder again. But I'm definitely enjoying my role as a VC for sure. Absolutely.
Nice, nice. And in fact, why don't we just like revert all the way back to childhood, your formative years? Who was the Bola then, and how different is he from the one now?
Sure, sure. So, yeah, I'm a Nigerian immigrant. So, came to the UK when I was about 10 years old. And initially, my dream at the time was to be a pilot, actually, which is interesting. And then I studied, aviation aerospace engineering at university to understand the mechanics of aircraft and planes and so on. And much to my disappointment at the time, it was prohibitively expensive to do the private uh, pilot license and all of that. And so my idea was, hey, I'll be an engineer for a little bit, get close to the propulsion systems and so on. And then over time, I will kind of move to being a pilot. And that's kind of what led me to General Electric, where I was a
Mhm.
propulsion engineer, working in the R&D team. But I think one thing I realized was that the speed of the aviation industry was just too slow for me. It takes such a long time to have any real kind of impact in the world because it's quite a conservative industry. And that's kind of what led me into entrepreneurship. My dad was an entrepreneur. My
Hmm.
granddad was an entrepreneur,
Nice.
and led me into different types of entrepreneur. My granddad was an agricultural entrepreneur. My dad is an insurance entrepreneur, and that led me into tech, and that kind of started that journey. So I would say There's some threads kind of, that from that time, i.e., I'm always an engineer. I'm always interested in systems and understanding how systems work.
Mhm.
Um, but I guess, albeit in a much more faster moving industry, much more, direct impact, which is what, VC, AI, that industry is all.
Sure. And just to inform the audience fully, you did have an exit in the AI insurance space yourself. Am I not mistaken?
Yes, absolutely. So there was a company I co-founded called Pudina, that was using AI to predict car accidents. And I guess the world is really interesting because I ended up selling into the insurance industry, which is where my which is where my dad co-founded his insurance company. So it's a full circle kind of moment. And that was in 2016. But as a matter of fact, I had been in AI since 2013. I worked for a company called Viewsy at the time, which was a retail analytics company that was using sensors to triangulate you within a retail environment. So the idea was they were trying to build Google Analytics for the real world. So I think that was my first exposure to AI. And then, as I mentioned, I co-founded Pudina, which is AI to predict car accidents. So yeah, that was in 2016. So I've been in AI for quite a while.
Sure, sure. And you keep referencing impact. I don't know if that stems at all from your immigrant roots at all, like trying to prove anything per se, or just along the family lineage.
I don't know if it's trying to prove. I'm not sure. But definitely, I've always been kind of inspired to go after big opportunities, um, things that will have a massive impact on the world. I guess, and looking at things from kind of two lenses. One from a capital return scale, perspective, and second from a societal aspect, and doing both. I think
Mm.
I often meet people who are, very much focused on making a big impact from a capital. We want to build a really big, successful company, purely focused on returns, and that's fantastic. And not really interested in the kind of social side. And then you meet people on the other side who are focused on social impact, but without that kind of ambition, for that more kind of venture scale, global, I guess capital, returning venture. I would say that as for me, I'm both actually. I care deeply about both, and opportunities that I go after tend to have do both. Do both pretty well. So, for example, Predina was a company that was predicting car accidents. If we think about the scale of car accidents, I think
And
1.3.
that's the one you exited.
Yeah, that's when I exited exactly.
Yeah.
So 1.3 million people die in car accidents per year. It's I think look at several stats. I think is the biggest. I think is the stat is the biggest killer of folks under 18 or something like that. It's some really crazy stats. And by the way, it's also a massive opportunity from a business perspective. I mean, that's if you look at car insurance. Look at the car insurance market, how big and how huge that market is. It's huge. So it's kind of it's the right was the right intersection of both of those things. And yes, I've always been drawn to opportunities that have both of those two strengths.
Well, if I recall correctly, when we were sitting down at the Battery, thanks for the generous invitation. Some amazing company you've got alongside you. The Stanford twice over soccer captain, if I'm not mistaken, who won the championships and so forth.
Yeah.
In any regard, you referred to your family and the strain that may have caused your impact orientation, right?
Yes, I think um, perhaps maybe looking back, there is fam a familial kind of connection there. I would say it's not prominent to me right now. I would say maybe I need to look back a bit more in terms of understanding that. Um, I guess coming as an immigrant, you want to come and you have that belief. I guess my parents did take a risk moving from Nigeria to the UK, right? Not knowing a single person there, and had to make it work, and had to figure things out. And I guess that drive, that risk-taking DNA is also maybe perhaps what led me to move to San Francisco on my own at the time, because I really wanted to. I wanted to work in a much more faster moving, impactful ecosystem. So perhaps maybe that's the strain, but I would say honestly there isn't anything that is coming out, screaming out to me in terms of that familial connection to what I'm doing today.
Cool. So why don't we get into San Francisco? What was the move like?
I would say what led to that move was that Pudina was in the accident prediction space. So essentially, we touched different ecosystems, right? There's the driverless vehicle kind of ecosystem. There is the fleet management ecosystem. There is the insurance ecosystem. But what I thought at the time was super interesting is was the driverless vehicle kind of ecosystem at the time. And I was surprised that in the UK at the time, now it's changed because we have a $1 billion company here called Wave that's doing really amazing things. But in the UK at the time, I had not seen a a true driverless vehicle company. And when I went to the US as part of a 500 startup accelerator, I was invited to the Google X campus, and I saw Waymo. I saw the Waymo vehicle at the time. It's definitely not what they have now, but even at that time, it was super sophisticated, and I just felt, wow, this is the
Hmm.
future. I felt this is the future, and I was thinking, wow, if I'm going to operate at at really the bleeding edge of this space, I kind of have to be here, otherwise
Hmm.
I'm disadvantaged. And even the level of sophistication of the conversations I was having with car manufacturers and in car manufacturers incumbents, startups was just a much more elevated conversation than what I had in the UK. I guess the UK is great for fintech, but not really at the time. It's changed now. At
Okay.
the time, wasn't really known for kind of industrial types of technologies or investing in those kind of opportunities. So for me, after selling the company, and I sold the company, I think during COVID, actually, just towards the end of COVID, um,
Nice.
I was determined to the US. I said, hey, if I'm going to do anything else, I'm going to start a company. If I'm going to be a VC, I need to operate at that level, at that scale, and really understand Silicon Valley and how I can compete, how I can operate, how I can have an impact. There's just so much optimism, so much belief, so much sophistication there that I felt that I needed to go. And so I had Cisco reached out to me, created a role for me as an entrepreneur in residence, and said, "Hey, come and help us figure out what we're going to do in AI. Come and help us incubate companies in AI." And as part of that, I moved to San Francisco, the Bay Area, in 2021, and that was kind of my journey. And the idea was I wanted to, kind of be a part of that ecosystem and really work and partner with the best entrepreneurs, the best VC,
The best.
best corporates in the world in
And
terms
you
of.
were very much a part of that.
Yes, I would say I was lucky. I've done a lot in AI, right? And and I think towards the end of my time at Cisco, I had done a lot of AI projects for them. But this was pre-ChatGPT, and then when ChatGPT happened, and I remember I emailed a number of the VCs, a number of the I'll say OG AI people that have been in the space for a long
Nice.
time. And
Yeah.
then I said, hey, is this real? Is this real? We've been in AI for a long time. Is this another kind of hypey thing, or is this real? And I remember, I think all of them emailed me and said, yes, Bola, this is absolutely real.
You
And
got names?
I don't know if I should mention their names. Uh, I don't know if I have the permission to mention the name, but yeah, a lot of the leading, a lot of leading, really, top tier AI investors that I really respect. And they said, yeah, Bola, this is real, this is happening. I'm impressed, I'm shocked by the capability and so on and so forth. And and at that time, I saw the wave come in, and I felt that, whilst I enjoyed my time at Cisco, I learned a lot, a great deal, and I have huge respect for Cisco and what they've done. I
Hmm.
just felt that it was time for me to, rather than kind of attacking it from an incumbent perspective, it was time for me to be a more active participant in this new wave of of of,
Sure.
of AI. And so I started speaking to a number of VCs, and started speaking to a number of VCs, having conversations. Spoke to a couple of startups, but I was more interested in VC. And
Hmm.
when the role came from AI fund, which is Andrew Ng's fund, I felt that it was just a really good fit for me in terms of allowing me to invest and also build, with these companies. It was a really nice complementary fit, and I felt that, I'm firmly in the, I guess I'll call it attackers and defenders. I'm firmly in the attacker category, right? Really going after this opportunity, taking huge risks with these founders. And so, yeah, when I saw the opportunity, I was really excited about it, and jumped on. And that's pretty much what I've been doing for the last couple of years.
Yeah, more than that. I mean, you like to attack, like to disrupt. Do you have an example of something at AI Fund where you thought, hey, this is super risky, but I'm going to grow my skill set. I'm going to feel like the adrenaline rush.
Yeah. Um, I guess the number of things, I think, um there was I would say there's an investment in a sector. I'm not able to share the details at this stage because it's still in stealth. There was
Nice.
investment in a really difficult category, very difficult category, where a number of incumbents had failed. A number of major incumbents have failed in the past. Um, and it's a really tough market, really tough market. And it required very deep technical, I guess it was just this market risk, this technical risk, and really required me to really push on that. And my initial instinct was just to dismiss it and say, hey, look, I don't think we should be investing in this space. I think it's a bad idea. I think people have failed. Why don't we just go find the next, enterprise SaaS,
Everyone else is doing it.
exactly AI thing. Um, but I really,
Attractive multiples, gigantic market, proven.
let's just do that exactly. But I really leaned in, and tried to understand the facts, specifically what has changed, what has
Hmm.
changed to make this opportunity compelling right now. What has changed? And it took a lot of, it took a lot of, um, I've been working on that investment for about a year now.
Wow, wow.
It's an incubation actually. I'm working on the incubation for about a year now, and it's finally coming, finally aligning. So, touch wood, right? It's not fully done yet, but that was a really um uh, amazing kind of journey, because you have to look at things really, really understand the technical risk, really understand the business and market risk, really understand the founder risk, really understand the capitalization risk,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
try to put something coherent together that de-risks this, and makes a venture like this come alive. But I would say, we had, of course, an idea as risky as that. We had a lot of skeptics, a lot of folks who had different perspectives around whether this is not the right move or not. But I think, even at the fund, I think folks kind of came around, and I even had an internal team award
Oh,
for
wow.
for
Wow.
pushing this opportunity, and for pushing us up and kind of going really deep. So it was an intense. I learned a lot from it for sure. I learned a lot from it in
The
terms of
non-consensus bet, certainly. And on the crazy gold rush element of AI talent,
yeah.
do you feel there's a lack of skill out there? Can it address all these opportunities?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think there is. I think that the difference between um, the previous era of AI and this era, in let's say when I was a founder, you needed PhD level postdoc, deep AI talent before you could build anything. You need to get the data and to clean the data. You needed to hire some of the best machine learning experts, PhDs from Cambridge, postdocs from Imperial, so on. They needed to wrap that in a product. Now, today, you don't need that. You don't need that. You absolutely do not need that. All of that data, all of that, the data work, the model work has been done by the open AIs of this world, the Anthropics of this world. So
Hmm.
really, all you really need is, a software engineer that can access these models by an API and build a fantastic experience around it, build a fantastic product around it, and take it to market. So I would say for 99%, well, 99% is probably stat that's too high. For most, companies to get off the ground and build something that delivers value to a customer, you don't need to have deep AI expertise at all. Um, unless you're fundamentally trying to do something, you're trying to differentiate via some sort of technical capability. Um, that's my view. That's my viewpoint. So it's just more accessible, right, to folks. So I don't think that there is a lack of um, there's that kind of limitation in talent to be able to do some of these things. You don't need a PhD in ML in AI
Hmm.
to just need a software engineer, capable software engineer with an experimental a perspective to be able to utilize different models in. So
Hmm. Well, I mean, that's an informed perspective of your own. I think a lot of people are getting educated by that and would have thought otherwise. So, how are you leveraging? I mean, you worked at AI Fund under Stanford Professor Andrew. Correct me in the pronunciation. Ng?
yes, I think so. Yes.
Right. Deep Learning AI, Coursera, founder of both. Extremely hard worker, if I'm not mistaken. So, given all these learnings, where are you going in the future? That's what I really want to know.
Yeah, I think I think that continue to be in AI. I think it's transformative and just the pace at which the space is moving. I think it's pretty clear that this is yeah at this time. And I think folks have doubts around what's the business ROI and so on and so forth. But I think it's pretty clear. It's pretty clear that this technology is transformative. Who the winners will be, where value will accrue to, that's who knows, right? Who knows? But I think I plan to be in AI, you know, for the foreseeable future. So that's interesting. I'll say plan to be in VC, or in a role enabling the best founders, enabling the best innovators to build these great companies. I think I really enjoy my role as a VC, and I think someday, I think I'm really a theme that I really that I think I find interesting is democratization,
Mhm.
and the kind of unlock that it does. If you think about uh, OpenAI and Anthropic and so on, the real kind of breakthrough, yes, is in the model, but is the fact that the access to AI, access to AI from developers, access to AI from end users was democratized. Now everybody has access versus only a limited few. So democratization is a theme that um, I'm really excited about. And if you think about AI, right?
Like cloud in the last era, somewhat. No, like AWS enabling
Exactly,
lots of folks.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
And a number of major companies have done this. So Stripe, democratizing, access to being able to receive payments. And there's a number of companies that are around kind of taking something that's for the few and making it available to everybody. I think it creates so much value unlock, huge value unlock. And that's a theme that I think I'm really interested in and want to take forward in my career, because it allows two things. One, it creates huge value, huge economic value, and it also creates huge impact, right? In
Yeah.
terms of folks being able to access it. So I think one thing that I'm passionate about, and I think is something that I will, in the foreseeable future, spend more time actively doing, is how can we democratize AI globally? AI is in Silicon Valley, there's no doubt, and as much as I love Europe and I love a number of companies, there's no doubt that the best uh, the best AI companies, the leading AI companies, um, uh, are in Silicon Valley. There's no doubt about that. I don't think anyone can argue about that. But how can we democratize it? How can we make that this impactful technology as accessible as possible? So that is
Got it.
going to some regions in Africa. Can we make the technologies accessible? Can we make the technology accessible to those that don't have internet connectivity? And the value unlock that creates, right? I think is something that I'm really passionate about. Can we make really advanced, high quality Silicon Valley level technology, or in some cases
Mm.
European, world class technology? Like, for example, 11 Labs is a world leader out of London, and they've done extremely
Okay.
well. Wave is a world leader out of London. Mistral, of course, is doing amazing things. But regardless of where the technology is built, can we make world class, best in class technology available, broadly available? And as accessible as possible around the world. That's something that I'm really passionate about, and I think I will continue to do that. I am on the board of a non-for-profit called Deep Tech and AI for Africa,
Okay.
which is kind of part of that work that I hope to continue to do more. Yeah.
All right. I'd love to dig into that, but I can't help but want to address the matter of any frameworks you picked up at AI Fund. Anything that Professor Ng instilled in you and how that
Yeah. So
informs your approach.
yeah.
By the way, I want to politely interject. I can't but help recognize viscerally. I sense you want to bite in as a builder. So you're going to continue along that front. I do believe.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely really passionate and excited about AI and different applications. I think one of the things that I learned at AI Fund, I think is really interesting, um is is kind of investing to essentially um in, investing by doing, right? Investing by doing, or being very experimental. So, for example, we might have a thesis and we say, do we think that AI, we want to make an investment in a company. Let's say, do we think AI can generate better RFPs, better responses to government grants than experts? I think most VC firms, their approach would be to jump on a call, go speak to some experts in AI and say, hey, is this possible? And speak to some founders and and have a lot of conversations and speak to some government people and say, is this really possible? Is that really possible? At AI Fund, we have a very experimental kind of hands-on approach. And Andrew would just say, well, let's go test that.
Sick.
And we go and do that. And
Nuts.
we get some data, we get some information, we find the domain experts, we run the test, and we get the data ourselves. And then that approach of investing, I think, is really interesting because number one, it allows you to be very tactile, right? You become very tactile and very nuanced around opportunities. You kind of go from very high level to go to kind of very detailed by building the thing, by doing a small proof of concept, by doing a small sprint where you build something, you leverage what's available, you build it, and then you see the results for yourself. It really informs the decisions that you make, and I think that's something that I really learned from AI Fund is our approach in being experimental, and I think the founders really like that actually as well because we are able to provide not just high level support in terms of you should go after this market or we are able to really go down to the detail and because we've done the experiment, we've ran the models, we've tested it, and as such that helps to inform our investment approach. So that's something pretty unique, I think, that
Okay.
Other funds don't do. So that's something I've learned a lot from Andrew.
Okay, cool. I'm sure you've learned a ton. Nonetheless, I want to humble you here. There must be something in your anti-portfolio.
Yes, I'd say there was I think I had an opportunity to invest in Revolut. I think at the time it wasn't a direct opportunity. It was they were one of these crowdfunding platforms, and I came across it, and I think I dismissed it. I was like, this looks like a great company, but I had two concerns. First, I dismissed. I said, if it's on a crowdfunding platform, maybe they haven't been able to raise investment. Why is it on a crowdfunding platform? So I dismissed that, which was absolutely wrong. And secondly, I had concerns around the regulatory risk and the trust factor because I felt that I wouldn't put all my earnings. I wouldn't trust a startup with all my earnings as a primary bank account, and I wasn't sure other people would. And also, I felt that I don't think they'll be able to get. I don't think they'll be able to get the licenses from a regulatory perspective. And I think really learned from that, especially from being willing to take regulatory risk, and being willing to if they're kind of instead of basing the investment on what I would do, look at what people have been doing and say, okay, they do have some, because they did have some people who are using their solution and we're using it pretty fervently. But I just said no, if I wouldn't do that, and I dismissed that. So I think those were two key lessons that I learned in terms of one, being comfortable with some level of regulatory risk, right? And really, focusing on taking myself out the picture as a potential user for a product. I think for consumer products, a lot of investors do that. Oh, would I use it? If I wouldn't use it, then it doesn't make sense. Or if I would use it, then it makes sense. It's actually both of those are wrong. It should be really, what are the users? Who are the target? Who are the ICP, and why are the ICP using this product? What's their usage pattern? I should have leaned in more. So big mistake on my end in terms of missing that company.
Yeah, democratization.
Exactly.
So what's all this about Africa? Tell me more. The board you're on there. Could you remind us of the name?
Yes, it's called Deep Tech Foundation. Digital Foundation for Africa. So I say it's a group. It's a group of us. Started by a number of folks in the Bay Area that are in advanced technology. So we have it's kind of started off as a WhatsApp group. It has a number of folks at major companies, major tech companies at leadership roles of African descent, or have interest or connection to Africa. Working with deep tech experience. So some folks are in chip design, some folks are in AI, some folks are in synthetic biology. And in Africa right now, a lot of the investment has been very focused on fintech, right? And that is, no disrespect to them. I think that's absolutely needed, right? And a lot of huge successful companies have come out of that, but there isn't as much focus on more deeper technologies, more advanced technologies, like AI and so on. It's very much just focused on fintech, and most of the opportunities are in fintech. And we felt that for example, folks like myself, being in AI, and some other folks, maybe professors at different universities like Berkeley or Stanford, or VPs at really amazing chip companies, or leading engineers at Facebook in AI of African descent, or of a connection or interest in Africa, that there is a need to help to upskill folks in Africa coming out Africa descent, and two, really, how can we democratize these technologies, which is what I said, something that's really passionate,
Yep.
something really close to my heart. So it's a new group. We started off via WhatsApp, and it's been a fantastic community to be a part of. We have a number of amazing people, including VPs at leading AV companies, and really amazing people, really amazing people, and it's a great community to be a part of.
Is there any way we could broadcast the note and encourage people to join, or is it fairly closed, I imagine?
I will say it's fairly closed, but I'll say right now it's invite only at this stage. I think we are still very early in kind of setting the agenda for that group. So I think it's invite only at this stage. But as and when we are kind of ready to kind of attract more members and grow the community, I'll for sure reach out to you, or I'll amplify it on LinkedIn and socials.
Okay, thanks. What's one moonshot, Bola, one moonshot AI application or company you'd love to invest in if it came to you tomorrow?
I think there's loads of things that have to, as you know, as an investor, there's so many things that have to align for it to make an investment, right? Is this the right founder? Is this the right opportunity? Is this the right skill? Is this the right time? Is the right team? There's so many things. Is the right
Or
technology?
maybe particularly something that's underhyped.
Yeah. So yeah, I would say what I'd like to see more of, or I think there's a couple of areas that are underhyped, that I can talk about. I think one is AI for consumer. I think consumer AI, though is not, I won't say is the category that I'm focused on. I do think is underhyped. I think we have seen in early explorations. I mean, we have seen some cases where, for example, we saw a piece of research that showed that for mental health, an AI-enabled mental health chatbot was more impactful than a
Hmm.
human mental health
Oh,
expert. Because, and here's the reason why, with the human mental health, with a human therapist, a human therapist, you're less likely to share how you're really feeling. You're less likely to share your whole thing, because you feel that they might judge you, and they might say, hey, let me escalate this. You don't know what they might do. Whereas with an AI, you kind of, you feel safe in a way, and people share more. They really share more. There is no preconceived notions that a human would have, right? There's less preconceived notions. So we found that those applications are very impactful, and there are AI companion things which are some are a little bit weird, to be quite honest,
yeah,
but
yeah.
it definitely shows how persuasive, how powerful, um, these AI applications are. And I think as such, they will be able to generate. I think there'll be some billion-dollar consumer companies, come out of the AI consumer space. But AI consumer is super risky. right?
I was just going to ask, how do you navigate that risk?
It's
People getting addicted, for example, as well, right?
yes, of course, that needs to be managed. That needs to be managed better with these AI things. But I'm saying risk more from an investment perspective in terms of, is it a fad? Is something that, there's not been many successful consumer companies recently. So I think, and there's been a lot of high profile failures. So I think folks are rightly concerned about that. But I do think that that their area is definitely underhyped. The other area I think is underhyped, but I think will start to, um, I don't know when, but I think hopefully we start to accelerate is kind of AI on the edge.
Hmm.
Again, which is if you think about the democratization theme, is it takes that it's basically that you to access a number of these models, you need access to the internet to access to use ChatGPT, you need access to the internet to use Gemini, you need access to the internet. However, to if the we've definitely seen at AI Fund, when we've done some experiments that there are some models that you can run on device without internet. If you think about that, so no internet, you can run it on your laptop, and these models are getting better and better, such that you can run these models in the field without internet connection. So
Wow.
there's kind of two aspects of that. One is it opens up, it unlocks, opportunities, for example, in places in Africa, places around the world where there isn't internet connectivity, and makes this technology accessible and gives that productivity gain to people, to folks. That's one. The second is kind of for industrial use cases, on an oil rig in the middle of the ocean where you don't have internet connectivity. You want access to, this large language models, or in a basement somewhere, in the basement of a manufacturing facility, where you want access to some information. And AI is not, because of a lack of internet connectivity, you can't access it. So I think that's obviously there's different constraints. There's more the physical world, built world constraints, but I think that's a really interesting space. I think there was a stat that said, I think 80% of the world, I don't know if this is correct, but 80 to 70% of the world's workers are deskless workers. So
Hmm.
the vast amount of AI has been made for people, white collar workers, those that work in the office with a laptop and so on, which represent 20%. What about the 80%? What about that 80%? There are huge opportunities in applications that leverage and create this, I guess, small language models, or smaller scale models to run on a device, with limited connectivity. So those are the two things that I'll say that um, I think are underhyped. I'm definitely spending more of my time on that AI on the edge piece rather than the consumer piece, because I'm not really a consumer investor, even though I've done two consumer deals. I'll say so. Those are the two things that I think I'm pretty excited about.
Opens the aperture, yeah. Do you have examples, any come to mind as far as one or two AI startups with huge potential, and why?
Um, Big potential and why? I think all of the obvious names. I like what Sierra is doing. Sierra AI with kind of agents, leading with agents. Agents is a massive wave. I don't think it's overhyped
Sure.
now. I think maybe last year people would say it's underhyped, but now I think folks are making several investments in this space. So Sierra
Yeah,
is
we've made one. Just want to make a nod to founder Joao at CrewAI. We got in at pre-seed, and they're insight backed Series A. Yeah.
yeah, CrewAI is a fantastic, platform. So yeah, definitely a nod to that kind of space. Um, I'll say, I'm really impressed with what Glean has done, in terms of that enterprise data. I think I can't remember who said that. One advisor at AI, I think he told me that the vast majority of data is behind corporate firewalls. The vast majority
Okay.
of valuable data is behind corporate firewalls. So if you think about what OpenAI and Anthropic are doing, they're much more focused on the data they're trained on is much more focused on publicly available data. So that corporate data, who has access to that corporate data, and who and yes, a number of these companies, OpenAI and so on, are leaning in and pushing into that space. But I think Glean, I think is most poised from a enterprise perspective. So really, really excited about what they're doing. And I think I think it's a fantastic company. So those are the two, Sierra and Glean. Of course, the OpenAI is the Anthropics, and so.
Hmm.
But those are the two that I would say that I'm pretty excited about. And it's another company, Foundry, that got backed by Sequoia in Lightspeed.
Okay.
They are kind of focused on making compute more accessible. And the founder is incredible. Founder is incredible. Really, clear thinker. Amazing company. Amazing company. So watch out for that as well. A Foundry
Foundry.
out of it came out of Stanford. The founder, I think their first round was 60 or 70 million by both Sequoia and Lightspeed co-investing in that company. So I'm really excited about the future of that company as well.
All right. So Glean's got it unlocked, Foundry as well. Keep a lookout for them. How do you support your portfolio companies beyond offering capital?
Yeah, oh yeah. I guess from our portfolio, plug from our portfolio, I think a company we have a number of interesting companies that are at the Series A, Series B kind of stage. I think
Nice.
one company that comes to mind and I think is quite topical, especially as you speak about the risks of AI and managing governance and ensuring that these models, don't have bias and, as these models proliferate through the world, they will have pretty significant impact, and that the bias and kind of discrimination and the adverse effects needs to be monitored. And a company I think is the market leader for this space. Is a portfolio company that we incubated called Credo AI.
Yeah.
So one is a AI governance company that's doing amazing things. So I just want to plug that company as well.
Okie dokie. So maybe shifting over to more personal questions and just to get a sense of the bola behind the bola.
Yeah.
What are the top three names in your anime Hall of Fame? I heard you're a fan.
You've done your research. That's impressive. You've done your research. Um, yeah, I think one is One Piece. One Piece is a good anime. I definitely recommend it. Hunter X Hunter is a good anime. I definitely recommend it. And the third,
Tricky question.
that is a good question. The third, I can't remember the name. The title's got a really long title. I think it's but I'll say another one because I can't remember the name. Someone's called Lelouch, Lelouch of the Rebellion. It's a really interesting mecha anime as well. Yeah, so the three.
All right. Odd question here. You become invisible for a day, and what's the thing you'll absolutely pull off as a superhero yourself?
Mm. Oh, you see, my mind was thinking as a villain.
That it's usually where our minds go.
Until you said a superhero.
Villain,
um,
we're open to that too. Why not?
um, uh,
The
I,
real bola.
yeah, no, I think I'm just really interested in how these amazing people make decisions. I'm just
Hmm.
really interested in how do they make decisions. Like I would like to be, for example, I would like to be maybe in Meta's office, in Meta's board meeting, and just seeing Mark, operate up close, and just see he's just such a amazing. This is obviously it's been through a lot of controversies, and some of them well deserved. But
Yeah.
he is one of the CEOs I respect. I just have such respect for him because he operates in such a competitive market. There's always a new consumer company trying to take his lunch. Always a new company. He's always fighting. He doesn't have like it doesn't have a break, right? He's always fighting some new founder that wants to come in, disrupt his business, fighting Apple, fighting this, fighting the press. And yet he just keeps he just keeps
And reinventing himself.
he just keeps reinventing himself. I'd love to just, and he seemed like a really clear thinker, really, really clear thinker. So I'd love to
Incredibly.
Be in Mark's boardroom, Meta's boardroom. I'd love to be in Nvidia's boardroom and see how Jensen is thinking about things. I'd love to be
Super inspiring leader.
yeah, see, amazing. I'd love to be in a number of the investors that I respect. I'd love to see how Vinod Khosla makes decisions, how he thinks about different investments. A number of the VCs that I really respect, the Roloffs of the world, and these amazing, amazing, amazing folks. I've had the opportunity to work with, work closely with Andrew and really see how he sees the world and learn from him. And it's just been such an amazing experience. So I think that's probably what I would like to do, is to go around, have a list of these people and just shadow them without them knowing I'm shadowing, shadow them and just see how are they making decisions, what's really going through their mind, how do they really operate, behind the facade, what's it like to work with these amazing, amazing, amazing people. So that's what comes to mind. If I'm
Yeah, then,
yeah.
and Midas list investor would be the achievement. What's the best piece of advice, Bola, you've received from a mentor? How did it impact your life? How do you pay that forward?
Best piece of advice I've had from a mentor. I think the thing that kind of comes to mind is I would say, I mean, it sounds a bit cheesy, but my mom always says, chase.
Please.
She always says chase your.
Sorry.
I said my mother always says chase your dream, chase your dream. And I think just that, it sounds super simple, but so it was like, kind of don't worry about it, just chase your dream. And I think a lot of people in their lives spend their whole life not taking risk. And they always want to follow the safe path, the path that stay in their job and stay in this job, and it's safe. I don't know what's out there, but I think all my life I've taken huge risk. Like for example, and I've said this to AI funds, so I think it's fine to say, I took a 50% pay cut from Cisco to join AI fund. That was a huge risk to take, but now I'm benefiting. It was a fantastic. I left all my family and friends and went to Silicon Valley on my own. I started a company when a lot of my friends were in fantastic jobs, but I think it's allowed me to just live a much more richer life. And sometimes you take a risk, like Jack Dorsey, I think in one of his addresses at Y Combinator, he said, you make in life, if you're really living, you build something, you make a bet with the world, and sometimes you win the bet, sometimes you lose the bet, but that's not the point. The point is that you have the courage and conviction to make that bet, and sometimes
You're in the arena.
you're in the arena, exactly. So I think that's sort of the thing that they chase your dream, and I always encourage people. Often they don't take the advice. To sometimes, not all the time, you do have to be calculated around it, and I understand people have circumstances as to why they can't take certain risks, but more often than not, take a risk. What's the worst that can happen? It's you
Nike, just do it.
Just do it. So that's
Chase your dream.
yeah, something that's close to me.
I've got a mama's boy here. Cool.
That's right.
Yeah. So how about a book you'd like to highlight? Any favorite
Well, there's two books I would say. Not to get religious, but I would say that I found that, you know,
Please do.
yeah, I found that there's kind of there are two chapters, two books in the Bible that I spend a lot of time on, and really helps me, actually, really helps me in practical business, investing principles, and those are Proverbs and those are Psalms. I spend a lot of my time in those
Mm.
books. I feel that that wisdom is timeless wisdom that has, because there's new trends, there's always new things about, oh, you should do this, you should do that. I'm always interested in what is the time tested piece of wisdom that has lasted for generations, eons. And I often refer back to Proverbs and Psalms. And I'll say outside of the Bible, so I'll definitely plug that. Even for people that are non-religious, just read Proverbs. There's a lot of wisdom in there, so much wisdom
Yeah.
in there. So I would definitely recommend that. I'll say from a non kind of religious standpoint, a book that
And
I
I fully agree. By the way, I'm often I might lack a fair degree of common sense, and I'm brought up to speed via Proverbs. So for sure, totally agreed.
it's such a good book. And I think folks, it's a lot of wisdom in there, and it's timeless wisdom. The other book I would say is The Score Takes Care of Itself by Bill Walsh.
Hmm.
Again, I think this was Jack Dorsey's. That talk actually had a pretty big impact on me. He gave an address to YC, and you should watch the video. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And he referenced this book, The Score Takes Care of Itself, and it's a really amazing book about this football coach, San Francisco 49ers, and one of the
Legendary.
legendary, legendary, of course, and his approach and how detail orientated it was. I don't agree with everything that was written in that book and their approach, but how detail orientated he was, and his focus on processes, maniacal focus on processes. And I think so much of what we do as investors, as builders, is very much focused on the result, and we don't spend enough time focused on what processes, what things are we putting in place to ensure that we're delivering consistent, high quality output. That might lead to you winning. You might not win every time, but that consistency of process of being detail orientated, being focused, being disciplined, I think is something that I really had a lot of impact on me in my career.
Sir, yeah. No, I'm thinking of a guy, Myron Golden. He's got some great content out there as a motivational speaker on achieving success, and he talks about the the necessity to decide. And as you decide, you cut it off. That's part of the meaning of the word.
Mm-hmm.
And Price's Law, how at any business, let's say it's 100 salespeople, the root thereof, so just the square root, 10 of them will generate 50% of the results. And a lot of that's due to maniacal focus. So what does it feel to be a Manchester? What's it feel like to be a Manchester United fan?
Um, it's we've been through a lot. We've been through a lot as a Manchester fan. It's been very frustrating. I would say it's been very frustrating. I must admit. We've had a really challenging set of seasons. Um, but I'm really optimistic, actually. Got this new coach, Amarim from
Hmm.
Sporting, and I'm really optimistic about him because he beat our rival with Sporting Lisbon. On paper, Manchester City, our rival, should have absolutely crushed Sporting Lisbon, and he beat them 4-1. I was really impressed, and he's coming to be our manager. So I was like, who is this Amarim guy? I'm not sure about him. Is it one? Is what club is he coached at? I'm not sure. What is his pedigree? But when I saw that and I watched the interview after, I was like, this guy looks like he's something special. He's like something special. I can get behind this kind of guy. So I'm excited about the future of Manchester United. But man, we've been through a lot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that reflects your sentiment for wanting to get in the trenches and be in the arena and democratize access, be at the frontier and take those outsized risks en route to the success you've led. And it's one after the next. So I'm excited to hear what happens with the board, and your ventures in AI as a builder and investor. Building that portfolio, the next Midas list guru we've got on the pod now.
I
Really
hope
appreciate
so.
it, and yeah, absolutely. Your character, the fundamentals. It's all about the fundamentals, right? So, Bola, it's been amazing here, and we're excited to have you as our first guest. It's incredible
Oh,
stuff.
thank you.
Really
It's
inspiring.
it's a pleasure. Thank you.